Hello, and welcome to the PDA Society's podcast. We're here to chat about all things PDA to help you understand what people with this profile of autism are experiencing and how you can help. We'll be sharing research, professional expertise, and the insights of people with lived experience to help you understand PDA and have more tools to make life easier. So, whether you're a PDA yourself, a family member, friend or professional trying to make a difference, welcome from everybody at the PDA Society. We hope you'll find this useful.
Welcome to the PDA Society podcast, where we share lived experiences and practical insights to help families, professionals and PDAers themselves feel more supported and understood. My name is Rachel.
And my name is Sarah, and we're both regular hosts of this podcast. Today, we're going to do things a little bit differently, though. We're going to be talking about Christmas. In the first part of this episode, we'll be focusing in the run up to Christmas, and then in part two, we'll talk about the big day itself.
So that lead into Christmas feels like that period that everybody else seems to love, but that can feel just like a minefield and so overwhelming when you've got a PDA child. There's so much that goes on during that period, isn't there? That all the lights, the noise, that constant talk of presents, and all those changes that go on at school as well. It's meant to be a magical time of year, but for some families, it's actually the most stressful time of year of all.
Yeah, and especially when you think you might have somebody coming down your chimney that you don't know as well. So,
Very
we're going to
true.
be chatting about the build up to Christmas and why it can feel so overwhelming, what's really going on beneath the surface for our PDAers, and how we can perhaps make it a little calmer and more predictable and therefore more enjoyable for everyone.
Fabulous. Okay, so I guess sort of a best place to start really is why is that build up period so stressful for families with PDA children? And I guess if you think about the build up for Christmas for anybody, you've got all the shopping that needs to be done, all the presents, working out who wants what and when to get them and is it in stock. You've got the decorating, you've got the planning the day, all of that sort of thing, and everything seems to be focused on just that one day, isn't it? And whether it's good or whether it's not is all on that day. So I guess it's
Yeah.
for everybody it's stressful, but then when you throw sort of PDA into the mix as well, then you've also got anxieties, people's anxieties to manage as well, which can be really difficult, can't it?
Mm. And if you think about it, we know that PDAs are really good at picking up on other people's emotions. And if, as
Mm.
parents, carers, family members, we're stressed, making a big deal out of it, they're going to pick up on that. And that's just going to escalate their anxiety as well.
Yeah, you get into that bit of a negative loop, don't you? In that, sort of you're getting anxious. So then, because you're your child's safe person, the PDA will pick up that oh, that my safe person is anxious. Maybe there is something to worry about. What is it? But they don't know what it is, which makes them more anxious, and then that just feeds in because then they're showing more distress behaviors, which increases the anxiety of the parent, and we get into this whole loop of negativity and difficult to get yourselves out of, really, isn't it? It really is quite difficult. And I suppose it's all expectation, I suppose, is at the heart of it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's like you say, there's the expectation that this only happens on one day, once a year. So everything has to go right because it can't be repeated the next day. Or in most families, it can't be repeated the next day. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's that. And also the expectation that goes with it. I remember my kids, a granny had bought them a jumper each, and it was absolutely hideous. And there was the expectation that you still have to look happy and say thank you. All those unwritten rules that go with Christmas can be really, really anxiety provoking as well.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I mean, also, I guess that build up to Christmas as well. It's that, all those changes in routines. So
Mm.
things like, nativity plays at school or different trips they go on at school. You've got, all those Christmas activities, making different things, the Christmas jumper days, sort of going back to the jumpers that you just mentioned. And I guess all that change increases anxiety, doesn't it? Because it's not predictable. They're doing things that they don't normally do. And just thinking about the jumper one, they might have there's expectation that you're going to wear the coolest jumper or whatever it might be, depending on, obviously, depending on your child's, depending on the age of your child. But that adds extra pressure, isn't it? Because when they're all in uniform, well, everybody's the same and no one bats an eyelid at what anyone's wearing. But when everyone's wearing, it's like the non-uniform days. But if they've got the Christmas jumper day, then everyone's looking focused on that jumper, which just layers on more expectation and pressure for PDA children.
Mm, yeah, and also we know that PDAers have a heightened intolerance of uncertainty, so that
Mm.
fear of the unknown. So if things are changed at the last minute, or lessons are replaced by rehearsals, or mum's acting a bit odd, she's been to the shops 10 times already this
Yeah.
week. Unless the child's got clarity on why that's happening, it can be really, really unnerving. It's just like, everything's changed.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you some of the things that can help, I guess, is how is letting them choose their for Christmas jumper, for example, involving them in what they want. I know my PDA already has two Christmas jumpers just in case he's going to need them, and he's a particular one that he really really loves. He has a Christmas T-shirt, which I always thought, well, why have a T-shirt when it's Christmas? Because it's cold. But no, he insists on wearing this T-shirt. In fact, it had its first outing this weekend. And my PDA is obsessed with McDonald's, as are many PDAers. And it's a McDonald's Christmas jumper. He thinks it is a
Perfect.
T-shirt rather. He thinks it is absolutely wonderful, and it had its first outing this weekend. And we're I should say we're sort of midway through November at the moment when we're recording this, so we've gone early this year. But things like, those nativity plays, they're lovely, aren't they? They're lovely to watch as a parent, but for the child, it's really, really difficult, isn't it? Because you've got, we often talk when we do training for around PDA about expectation and lowering, sort of try to remove expectation because expectation brings anxiety. Whereas when they're asked to perform in a play, it might not be the natural place for many kids. For some kids, they'll love it. My daughter would loved it. But for my PDA son, I can remember his first nativity play, and I think he was a shepherd, but he was a shepherd that was lying down behind the back of the stage, point blank, refusing to stand up. And every now and again, his one-to-one would literally just pick him up, hold him up in the air so I could see him to get a photograph, and then would put him back, and then would let him lie back down again. It's like, why are you putting him through that? It's just there's no
Mhm.
need, is there? There really isn't.
Yeah. And again, if you think about it, the nativity play, that's a massive demand.
Yeah.
But within that, there's lots of micro demands as well. It is like, getting dressed in your costume. There's learning your
Yeah.
lines, having to be quiet when everybody
Yeah.
else is speaking, not standing up and waving at your parents,
Yes.
even though most kids do, and that's really cute.
Yeah.
But it's just absolutely loaded with those little tiny micro demands, that is just like shaking that can of Coke for every demand that's placed on them. So it's no wonder that you get the avoidance and the lying down at the back of the stage, because it's
Yeah.
just so overwhelming. They just
Yeah.
can't cope with all those little tiny demands.
It is, isn't it? And that's it's the sensory stuff as well, I suppose, in the nativity play as well, isn't it? Because they've got, there's lights on them, they're on the stage, there's noise, there's lots of people, there's lots of strangers sitting in the school hall in front of them that they don't know. I know, all the parents and the relatives and what have you. So the costumes might be itchy and all that sort of thing. So there's a lot of stuff that is out of the ordinary. And we know that for many PDA children, it's that things that are that fear of the unknown, that not knowing what they're going into as they're walking into that hall for the first time when all the parents are there. It's huge overwhelm,
Mm,
isn't it? It's really,
mm,
really difficult. And maybe they're not getting those demand-free times that we know are really important for them to help them regulate again.
mm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I mean, even, if you're in a mainstream classroom and they're allowed to bring games in for the day or something like that, that might feel like non-demand time for a neurotypical child, but for a PDA, having to play a game at a certain time, or, obey rules that go along with that game, or share all the social stuff that goes along with that, again, they're all just micro demands.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's really important that we acknowledge all of that, of what's going on, and as I say, we're recording this sort of, mid-November, and that's all going on already, isn't it? That's already going on for our kids. So there is no wonder that, from now really, that some of this overload starts coming in. Some of these, the more the anxiety gets increased, and we can't, as parents, we can't always put our finger on why, but actually it's all this little changes, increase in that fear of the unknown, and that intolerance of uncertainty is going to lead to overwhelm for our kids. And also, you can't walk anywhere now at the moment, can you, without hearing Christmas music? It's in all the shops. It's like as soon as Halloween is out the way, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's on. Everyone is full on Christmas. That's really
yeah.
hard, isn't it? It's just sensory overload, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I walked into our garden centre on Saturday, and yeah, like you say, Halloween is now gone, and the next thing it is just mass, full on Christmas. And how many weeks away is Christmas? About
I
five or
know.
six. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to put up with this all that time. So
Yeah, yeah, it's the constant repeat of the songs. You've got all of the decorations up everywhere. So everywhere feels a little bit more enclosed, doesn't it? It doesn't feel as open and as clean lined as normal because every
mm,
shop's got all the decorations up. And it's busier as well, isn't it? And
totally,
that
yeah, you just
increases
can't
that
move.
sensory
Yeah,
overload, doesn't it? With lots of people, which means there's lots more unpredictability going on. There's more noise, etc., etc. And it's just really, really, complete overwhelm, I think, for many PDA individuals. And I said
mm,
also that you also have them in all of these images that we have around Christmas, whether they be in the decorations, whether they be in the shop posters or whatever it might be, they're all of people enjoying themselves, being happy, having this perfect Christmas. And I think again, then that just adds pressure, doesn't it? It adds
mm,
pressure for the PDA, but it also adds pressure for their family in that, oh, well, that's what maybe we should be like, but our
mm,
family Christmas doesn't look like that, where we're all
mm.
sitting around watching each other open one present at a time, nice and calmly, and the paper's not flying halfway across the room. It's that, it just doesn't happen, does it?
No, and then there's the expectation that everybody sits around the dinner table together and has a lovely family meal, and pulling crackers and all that sort of stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
I absolutely love Christmas. It's great, but you can see how totally overwhelming it must be, because it's almost implied that there isn't a choice. That's it. You will sit down and we will eat Christmas dinner together. You will pull a cracker, and I think as parents, one of the most helpful things can be to change that mindset that you may not have a typical family Christmas. There may not be, the meal together, but that's okay. It's
yeah,
whatever you need to do to make sure that you have an enjoyable time, or, a less stressful time,
yeah.
by putting in place those adjustments and just managing your own expectations.
Yeah, I think I think certainly for me, the when I suddenly thought, okay, right, this is my ideal family Christmas in my head. This is not going to how this is going to play out. We're not all going to sit down round the table necessarily at the same time. We're not all going to be eating the same food. As soon as I let my PDA have hash browns, fish fingers for his Christmas dinner, that calmed everything. As soon as I let him have it an hour earlier than everyone else was ready to eat, that helped calm things. And it's all those little micro moments that actually, if I'm a little bit more in tune to what he's needing in those moments, then it means the anxiety drops for everybody. And then,
Mm,
he's already eaten. If he wants to join us for a second meal, that's absolutely fine. But we can have ours in peace because I've already met his needs. So
mm.
yeah, it is that. It really
Trying to
is
get
sort
that
of that.
win-win, isn't it?
It is definitely, definitely.
Mm.
And I guess when you've got younger children as well, it's all those in the run up to Christmas. I know it started in our house already. The presents, it's the
Oh,
wish lists, it's Santa coming, it's all of those sort of thing, and the huge anxiety. My son came out the other day with, yeah, well, I'm going to be on the nice list, aren't I? And I already, he's come out with that. And it's like, yes, of course you are. It's all be fine. But, and then whenever he has a little blip, and whenever we have a little sort of bit of a distress behavior or a meltdown or whatever it might be, as he's recovering, he's delivering that line already. Will Santa
oh,
know? Will I still be on the good list? I say, don't worry, everything will be fine. So it's
yeah.
about really how to manage that run in, not so much about on the day, but that build up to presents, isn't it? It's really hard.
Yeah, I'm not forgetting Elf on the Shelf. I mean, I'm
Oh
glad
gosh,
my
yeah.
children are older and we don't even have to bother with that. I've never ever done it, but the I get stressed. Look at the parents posted on Facebook what they're else done that day, and I just think, oh my goodness, that would be just too much for me.
We
So
did Elf on the Shelf for a few years, and it was more stressful for us because we kept
yeah,
forgetting. We kept forgetting, and then my older child, a good as theirs, just come up and go, I can see the elf hasn't moved then. She's like, oh, I forgot. I went to bed. I was so tired, I forgot. So it's like we
oh,
go creeping
brilliant.
down the stairs at 5 o'clock in the morning to move the elf. It's just pressure you don't need, isn't it? It
Yeah,
really,
but
really is.
especially if you do look at Facebook and see what everybody else is doing.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
oh
I know.
dear.
So we're
Oh,
thinking about then these sort of different strategies that can help with this build up because again, lots of I know for my child, it's a hyper focus. We know that PDAs can get hyper focus, and my child gets very zoomed in on what's he having, who's going to buy what, and he's almost allocated for every family member. They can buy me that. They can buy me that, and he's sort of like, well, they haven't actually asked yet. What do you want? So it's like, well,
mm,
but if they ask, I'll say that. And he's like, and who else can buy me a present? And it's
oh,
just so overwhelmed. But it's that thinking about, okay, what could we do? What can you do in advance, particularly when presents start appearing under the tree? If the people have given him a present and he's got to wait or something like that. What's the types of things that can help? And I know one family that I know had mentioned that they give the main present at the beginning of December. So whatever
oh,
their main
okay.
present is, that first week in December, they give it then. So they've already got it. So that stops all that anxiety about, am I going to get it? Am I not? For the whole of December, when everybody else is getting all hyped up, then safe and secure and know that actually I've already got it. I've got that.
Ah, that's a nice idea. Yeah, because I hadn't really thought of it like that. You know, you do your wish list, but that's not a guarantee that you're going to get everything
No,
on it.
no,
So it's that, am I going to get it or not?
yeah,
And I heard about a family that used to put their presents all under the tree, but
yeah,
their PDA just couldn't cope with that. So they used to, because they didn't know what was in it, they wanted to open it.
yeah.
So they used to wrap theirs in clear cellophane or the
Mm.
PDAers and put those under the tree so he could see what was in it, but he still had the pleasure on the day of actually, being able to open a gift. So,
Yeah,
but it
yeah,
couldn't be uncertainty about what's inside.
yeah, yeah. Another, yeah, it's that's a great idea. I love the cellophane idea. And also things like popping them in gift bags just with some tissue on the top so they can peek, but they don't,
Yes.
it's not obvious that they peeked. So that sort of like, reassures them, but also keeps the pretense up that it's a surprise type thing. But they know, and that they know what's in it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
what else have I heard? It's that some families will have almost like a small present a week. So they might keep the big present back, but they give smaller ones. So it's almost like easing that anxiety as you go rather than holding everything back until the big day. So maybe keeping like emergency presents sort of in the cupboard that are smaller, but still things that they would want, but it's just eases that tension as you go.
Mm.
So that can help as well. And there was another family that I knew who, well, 'cause most of the time we all do a lot of online shopping these days. So when the parcel for the Amazon parcel arrives or whatever it is, they open it, see what it is, so they can see what they're getting, and then they let the parents wrap it.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
So they know what it is before it's wrapped, then it gets wrapped, then they put it under the tree, and actually that just again eases that anxiety, eases that build up, isn't it? Because I think
Mm.
personally, whatever you can do to ease that build up, to
Yeah.
to cut the tension and that anxiety is going to help.
Yeah, and it is, I guess, about managing expectations. For a lot
Mm,
of neurotypical children, actually that anticipation of, am I going to get this gift or not, is quite a nice thing.
yeah,
But for PDAs, it can become intolerable.
yeah,
So, yeah, just, you may have to manage expectations. And if they ask for something that is totally unreasonable and it's not going to happen, have that conversation in advance so that on the day, you're not going to, get that distress behavior. It's not going to be a surprise that I didn't get X, Y, or Z, or I did get
Yeah.
something.
And it's knowing that budget as well, isn't it? I think again,
Mm,
knowing that, right, okay, what is the main thing? What the one thing that you really, really want? And is it in budget? And have that conversation well ahead of
yes.
time. So you know you've got that main thing that they want, and they also know what the budget is. So
Mm,
particularly for older children, they are able to, understand that and understand that, okay, there's a fixed budget. What do you want what do you want us to spend that budget on? And
mm,
then it's all agreed ahead of time. And again, that will
mm.
reduce some of that intolerance of uncertainty. But
Yeah.
it certainly is a tricky period. It really, really
And
is.
I guess as well that allows for some negotiation as well, which we know
Yeah.
PDAs crave.
Yes.
So actually,
Yeah.
being able to say, let them say, well, actually, I'd rather do without this, but have that. So
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. It's that, and also that's that collaborative working as well, isn't it? We often
yeah,
talk in our Panda approaches, we talk about negotiation and collaboration. And if you're collaboratively deciding what they're having for Christmas, then actually that feeds into that as well, doesn't it?
mm, yeah,
So we
definitely.
know that many PDAers become overwhelmed at Christmas and they're overloaded, particularly in that build up to Christmas. But it might not always be evident on the surface. You might have
Mm,
some internalizers. So what do you think might be some of the sort of the keys, the tells, if you like, of the anxiety is building, but it's not necessarily showing on the surface?
mm. And I guess one of the key signs might be that some unusual behaviours kick in,
Mm,
or
yeah,
sometimes they get focused on something that's totally irrelevant, or all of a sudden there's nothing in the house for breakfast, and whatever you offer them, they just don't want. And you're thinking, what on earth is driving this
yeah.
behaviour? This is just bizarre. And again, in our training courses, we talk about a lot about the iceberg.
Mm,
So what you see above the waterline is only 10% of the iceberg, and 90% of it's below. So it's a case of instead of just focusing on that 10% above the waterline, which is the behaviors you're seeing, take that step back and think, what is it that's actually driving that behavior? And you
yeah.
may well find that it's all linked to the expectations, the build up to Christmas. But yeah, you might just suddenly notice something strange happening, or
Mm,
a relapse in terms of some distressed behaviors. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the sort of thing I would
It,
say.
yeah, and I suppose it's looking for those tells, isn't it? I know with my PDA, his tell when his anxiety is increasing, but he won't tell me that it's increasing. He starts to bite his sleeve.
Uh,
So he might not do it in front of me, but I look at the clothes and I can see whether it's been gnawed that day or not. And if it
yeah.
has, it's just like, okay, yeah, that anxiety is building. And sometimes, particularly with older children, they will self-regulate, but you've got to give them that space. So maybe they're needing more screen time. And maybe, our initial thought as a parent might be, oh, you're just pushing the boundaries. But actually, do they really need it? Because that screen time is helping them to regulate. I know screen time is my PDA is regulating activity. So I think being flexible around that as well can really help, because if they need it, they need, give them that opportunity to regulate, because it's going to help calm those anxieties that they're internalizing. And
Mm,
also looking out for things that they normally really enjoy doing, but they won't, but they're pulling away from,
mm.
because
Yeah.
that there are certain activities that they might particularly enjoy. I know my PDA loves going to trampoline parks and burning off all his energy and loves that thrill of the bouncing. However, he will pull away from those sort of activities when his anxiety is increasing, because obviously those activities, even though he enjoys it, they have demands on them. Obviously, he's got to wear certain
Mm,
socks, he's got to the sensory stuff, but he pulls away from things that he likes to do, and that's again another tell for me that
mm,
anxiety is increasing. So it's
mm.
certainly being hyper vigilant as a parent, I think, isn't it?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
very key. So what about family traditions then? How can, sort of many families have traditions over Christmas, whether that be going to church on Christmas morning or Christmas Eve. Maybe it's going to Winter Wonderland when they all open. But
Mm,
what how can those traditions be balanced with that PDA's need for regulation, and maybe that their autonomy and their need to make their own
Mm.
choices? Any
Yeah, and
ideas?
just visiting family or having people, the neighbours in for a drink, all very, very
Mm,
challenging. So I guess really the key here is choice. That
yeah.
these are the activities we would like to do. However, it's your choice if you join in or not. Now, obviously, that depends on the age of the child, but I think definitely giving them some autonomy over whether or not they do the activity or they join in is definite. And also having an exit strategy. So if they
Mm.
decide they do want to go to church, what happens if I start to feel overwhelmed when I'm actually in there? So having that agreed exit strategy in advance, so they feel safe and know that if I start getting anxious or overwhelmed, that I can just walk out, or I can tell mum and she will take me out.
Yeah, massively. I think giving them having that flexibility so that they can either not go or they can leave. I mean, I know I've talked before about when I first go into a new situation. So if I was taking my son to church, if I was taking him to an activity or whatever it might be, the first 5 minutes I'm on complete and utter meerkat mode, looking at where my exits are, what's my fastest route back to the car, and how quick I can get him out of there if I need to. And actually being prepared, thinking ahead, is really, really important, because
Mm.
the longer that we try to go, no, it's fine, you're fine, don't worry, here's your phone or here's your iPad or whatever it is that you think, oh, okay, well, I'll take that with me and it'll be fine because you can just focus on his phone. Yes, that might be fine in some situations, and it might be enough to get them through. But there are points that actually we've got to recognize that, sometimes it's not going to be, and sometimes we need to leave. And as much as we
Mm.
might want to stay, then we need to leave. I know
Mm.
that we will, where we can, we will try and go in two cars so that one of us can stay with our other child and one of us can leave with our PDA. If we're all able to go, that is. So it is about being able to adapt and be flexible, isn't it? In those
Mm.
moments that actually, yes, they are family traditions and they are lovely things to do. But think, are we all enjoying it? Or
Mm.
are they just things that we've always done because we did them with our parents and actually our kids don't actually enjoy doing them?
Yeah, and because they're not enjoying it, then we're not either. So you
Yes.
keep pushing for this utopia that is just never going to happen. So again, I guess it comes back to that point about managing our expectations as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, yeah, expectations as well. I think as also, I mentioned Winter Wonderland earlier, and I'm just thinking back to our last year's visit to Winter Wonderland, which was a complete disaster. Um, in that my son had these expectations of that he saw those stalls where you have to throw things, and then if you win, you get these giant teddies.
Oh yes.
Well, unfortunately, he wanted to have a go on those, and I'd explained that, well, nobody wins on those, but you can have a go, but you won't get a teddy. And then somebody walked past who had one
Mm.
family walked past with two teddies, and they're like, well, they've got them. I was like, okay, well, let's try. So we had to go. We had three goes, and it was like, right, we spent 10 quid on this now. That's enough now. Well, the almost mightiest of meltdowns happened. And it was just like, I knew this was going to happen. I could see us walking into it, but I couldn't get us out of it
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
And it is, yeah. So it is thinking about getting those expectations out before you go. Getting those,
mm.
net that if we go this year, it's like we're just going on the rides. We're not even going to attempt any of the stalls. We're
Yeah,
just going on the rides. We'll go on certain rides and all agree ahead of time. Because otherwise it's just, I mean, his little world's just collapsed, love him, last year when he couldn't get one of these toys. And I was almost felt like saying, let me just buy you one. Let me just buy you one. And then he's where everyone can be calm. But obviously that's not going to happen. But yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? So it's balancing their needs, balancing what the family want to do, isn't it? And balancing and sort of planning ahead, I think, is key.
yeah, and being really crystal clear on what that the demand is going to entail, so there are no surprises,
Yeah,
or you can
definitely.
mitigate them as best you can.
Yeah. So I think for some PDA children, as they get older, they almost like reject this idea of Christmas. So and that's really difficult then, isn't it? Because especially when there's parents, we're looking forward to it, and maybe other children are looking forward to it. So and that can be really hard for
Mm.
parents and for the other children. So sort of what do you think might be behind that of why some children might pull away from Christmas as they get older?
Well, part of it could just be normal sort of teenage behavior
Yeah.
and just that rebellion. We all know Santa's real, but they might not, they might
Yeah.
decide they're not going to believe anymore because it's too childish or whatever.
hmm
And again, I guess it's for all the reasons that we've spoken about, the intolerance of uncertainty, all that sort of stuff. I think though it's key to, validate their feelings. If that's what they
Mm.
feel, that's what they feel. Don't try and talk them around to your way of thinking. Just, offer understanding
Yeah.
and personally, that's what I would do, and just leave it at that.
Yeah, and I guess sort of trying to recognize where they're coming from, as well as being sort of the as they get older bits. It could be, as you say, it could be the normal teenage stuff, but it could also be related to trauma, I guess. If Christmas has traditionally been a traumatic time for them, and that
Yeah.
period of stress, then it's reasonable to understand that actually they might not therefore look forward to Christmas as they get older because they've made those connections between Christmas is coming, I get stressed, I don't want to be stressed, therefore I don't
Mm.
want Christmas. And likewise, their safe people get stressed as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
again, if that's showing their safe person is distressed, then again, why would they want to go? Why would they want to do that? So
Mm.
and very often with PDAs, it's if we understand the why, then we can understand how we can help. But if we don't understand the why maybe they're rejecting Christmas, then it's really difficult. But apart from the fact that we've got to respect how they feel and give
Mm.
them that autonomy, so no, that's fine. We want to do this. You're welcome to join us, but this is what this is what we're going to do.
Mm.
But we respect if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to join
Mm.
in.
Mm. Well, I
So
guess really in summary, we've spoken quite a bit about the preparation and the run up to Christmas.
mm,
It can be very stressful, but it doesn't need to be. So I guess in summary, what are the key takeaways from this, Rach, do you think? I think the first thing for me is that preparation is absolutely key.
yeah.
That's preparation for us in terms of our mindset and our managing our anxiety, but also preparation so that you can get that low demand environment.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's the planning ahead. It's the giving them their autonomy. We there's as well as what we've talked about so far. I suppose there's all the socializing that builds up. The socializing builds up. There's a lot more social occasions to go to, and again, your child the autonomy. If they want to come along, that's great. If they're there at a in a restaurant as you're having a family meal or a meal with friends, and they want to be on their phone, let them be on their phone.
Mm.
It's we need to recognize that it is a stressful time for them. It is not all about the happiness and the joy. It is about the stress is going to be the primary feature for many PDA children. So let them manage it the way that they feel their own strategies for managing. So yeah, planning ahead, giving them that autonomy, thinking about how you can decrease that anxiety around presence. And we've talked about different ways that you could do that. Um, and also, I think the most important thing is take the pressure off ourselves.
Mm.
As
Yeah.
parents, we put ourselves under so much pressure around Christmas. And what is the most important thing? That everybody's happy, that we
Mm.
might have spent some quality time, whether that's individually with our individual children and between ourselves, or as a family. It doesn't matter. If we've spent it
Mm.
together, great. If we've spent it separately, that's also great.
Mm. Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. So if today's conversation has resonated with you, then please do remember that you're not alone and that there is support out there for you. You can find more resources, guides, and community support on the PDA Society's website and hub, and we put lots of links in the show notes for you. If you found this episode helpful, then please do share it with somebody else who might benefit, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations. Remember, we also have part two, our deeper dive section of this podcast, where we talk about how Christmas Day itself can increase anxiety and strategies to make the day a little bit more manageable. If you'd like to listen, then please just head over to our training hub. So thanks again for listening. Please do take care of yourselves. And from Sarah and I, please do have as relaxing a Christmas as you can. Thank you.
So, if you want to hear more from today's special guest, then there is a longer version of this podcast available over on our Training Hub. Sponsors of our Training Hub make it possible for us to create and put out this podcast for everyone for free. As a thank you, they get free access to all recordings and self-guided training on our Training Hub. Thank you, subscribers, for your generosity. If you'd like to become a subscriber, there's a link in our show notes.